Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, this is Sheila Huber on Scientology Part 4, the Anti-Child Sea Org.
I was the Executive Establishment Officer at AOLA, which means I was responsible for child care, staff stability, staff getting benefits, pay, things like that. You're in charge of all this stuff, but they don't tell you how you're supposed to go about doing it. All right, because there was very little written about this position. And like every other position there, it usually got into, production statistics and things like that, which it eventually got ruined by that. But anyway, when I first started, it was a good position, I thought, and I worked really hard to get to that because I wanted to help the kids. We didn't talk about the child care organization too much just yet, but we'll get back to that. What I wanted to help the kids because it was such a terrible child care situation. And we tried all this round robin stuff and all that, and that had been destroyed. And I was the exec customer, and I was like, what else are we going to do? And I'm thinking about this and thinking about this and thinking about this and thinking about this and praying about it. My big secret, nobody knew I still prayed. And praying about this, and then go, I know what I have to do. All right, before that, the survey, it was the most hideous survey I had ever seen. It was like 15 questions, and they were doing it on all staff in all Sea Org organizations around the world. And the survey was about, are kids actually valuable to the Sea Org? Yeah.
Are kids actually valuable to the Sea Org? But yet, nobody knows anything, do they?
Yeah. Every question was a loaded question because it had nothing to do with the beauty of parenthood and raising a future generation, or it had nothing to do with any of that. It was just malicious, vicious stuff. And
do you remember like a couple of the things that it talked about? Like, can you give an example?
Oh yeah, are children necessary to the Sea Org? Should children be recruited in the Sea Org? Is this an unnecessary expense for the Sea Org?
Listen to that. Is this an unnecessary expense for the Sea Org? So once again, children are negated to a piece of property.
What benefit are they to production? How much time do you spend off your production?
What benefit are they to production?
To see your child. It was horrendous. And this is pre-David Miscavige. He was there somewhere, but he hadn't come to power yet. This is still maybe 8 months or a year before I got RPF'd. So about a year before Owen Hubbard died. So he may or may not have had a hand in this. I don't know. I can't say he didn't, but he wasn't.
Could it be possible that this woman got RPF'd because she was trying to stand up for the children? Could it be?
The name we knew yet. He wasn't a name. We knew Guillaume Lesever as EDNT. We knew the people in CMO. We didn't know David Miscavige. He wasn't an executive name. Not to everybody. Maybe to Flag he was, not to everybody. And I was given this survey and my heart just went to my throat. I knew what was going on. I mean, I think everybody knew what was going on. They were going to eliminate the kids, or cut back on money, or they were just looking.
So they were going to eliminate the kids. I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what she means. What does she mean by that?
Looking in the wrong direction for a solution. So,
Or could it be that the feds were breathing on them? Perhaps. I mean, one can hope, right?
and it had been done before. It had been done locally before, but for only short periods of time. Where they'd say, don't have any children now, we're not recruiting anyone with kids. There were PAC base orders from years.
So from what I understand, she's talking about no recruiting of Sea Org members that have children. Not you can't recruit children, but you cannot recruit people to the Sea Org that have children. If I'm understanding this correctly.
Earlier, it's been done a couple of times where they said, okay, everybody, just stop having children right now. Don't recruiting children. We need to fix up the child care organization. And that was like
A question that comes to my mind, what is the child care organization?
final last thing you can do when you're desperate and you've tried every other measure. Well, I was executive establishment officer. We had tried everything. And we're getting reamed out right now for all of the money we're spending on outside child care. And the crunch is on. And that money's getting cut.
Wow. Multi-billion dollar corporation doesn't have enough money for childcare. But they have lots of money for David Miscavige's suits. They have money for Tom Cruise's little pet projects, slave labor for Tom Cruise. But they don't have enough money for the child care organization.
It's not up to us anymore. It's getting cut from the flag level, not from our level. And as we don't pay them, they say we won't take your kids, or they say, you know what I mean? This is really getting heavy. Everything's coming to a climax here, and this survey gets done. And I prayed about this and thinking about it. I said, there's only one thing I can do. I can prolong things. And I can do it on my terms instead of their terms. And I came up with this plan, and it was just mine. Couldn't discuss it with anybody. And I decided that I was going to do it on a volunteer basis as a 1-year pilot and get that pilot in motion, completely voluntary, before the survey had been completed, before the big orders came down from above.
Which you knew were coming.
We all knew. We'd all been surveyed. Every single person in the Sea Org had been surveyed, or at least all the ones that had kids. Probably everybody, though. And I got up in front of the staff at muster time, our meeting time in the morning. Nobody knew I was going to do this. And I said, we have a really bad situation in the child care center. This is what we've tried. Outside child care. We've tried the round robin. It was off policy. We've tried this. We've tried that. We've done every possible solution we can think of. The nannies that are recruited keep blowing, running away.
Okay, busted. The nannies we keep recruiting, keep blowing. That means the nannies are children. For those who didn't know, now you know.
Leaving without notice. There's been unqualified people as nannies that were recruited that turned out to be perverts.
Otherwise known as pedophiles. I'm trying to give this woman the benefit of the doubt. But, I mean, you can't put all the organizational problems on one person. So it could be that she was trying to do what she could do in her power. It appears to me that she cares about the children, but, I mean, she could be lying. She seems sincere to me. So let's just see.
Oh, yeah. There's a horrendous situation where the ratio is completely illegal and off. Your kids are not getting outside and getting proper care. You don't want to bring your children into this situation. It's abusive. It's wrong. So, and they're like, oh, and the commanding officer's freaking out, right? What is she saying? What is she doing? I don't know anything about this, right?
Wouldn't you guys love to know who the commanding officer is that she's talking about? It kind of drives me crazy when people don't name names. I mean, what's the problem with naming people's names?
I was just freaking out. And I said, so I'm going to ask you to do this on a voluntary basis. This is a pilot. It's 100% voluntary. Nobody is going to be reprimanded or forced to do anything. There's no orders. It's a request. And it's only a request. It has no more force than a request. I'm asking you as staff members, please don't get pregnant right now. Please. For a year, no pregnancies. This is where you go to get birth control. Okay? And I told them where to go, where they could get free birth control. It was a Planned Parenthood place that was in the neighborhood. If you want to talk in more detail about types of birth control.
Anybody who knows the law, isn't it illegal to force people to take birth control? I mean, I feel that the women are volunteering it, but they're under duress. I mean, I'd love to hear from lawyers that are familiar with that kind of law. It seems to me like that is infringing on some type of freedom of speech, or I don't know which one it would be.
I can talk to you. The staff section officer can talk to you. We'll give you whatever advice, whatever you need. Please do not get pregnant for the following year. They all agreed to it. Voluntarily. There was a show of hands.
That's what she says. Did they have any choice? I mean, it's like you can tell somebody that they have a choice. Like I talk about the voluntolding. I don't feel like those women really felt they had a choice. And I'm not going to make her the demon. I'm not, because I don't think she came up with that. So.
Who agrees, who doesn't agree? Everybody agreed except one woman. And she's given the dirty looks by everybody. Her name was Cece Prefontaine.
Told you guys, Brave New World. Go watch that movie. Read the book. Where women are rewarded for sleeping with as many men as possible. And if they don't sleep with as many men as possible, there's something wrong with them. And also, too, in making all these women take birth control, whether they really want to do it or not, that gives any perpetrator, any predator, any rapist, free rein to rape these women and not impregnate that woman. Or girls. In fact, as far as that goes, young girls.
And I said, hold on. No pressure on her. No pressure on anybody that doesn't want to volunteer. This is voluntary. It's a personal decision. And I said, just back off of her, right? So I thought I'd bought some time, and I thought I managed to get around the system and make it voluntary rather than order from management. You know, there's no ethics penalties, and I made that really, really clear.
Which, by the way, the order came from a man, of course, right?
It worked really well. It started to ease within about 3-4 months. The pressure of the child care organization started to ease. The ratio got better of children to nanny. It started.
So the ratio got better from children to nanny. How old were the nannies? Were the nannies children too? Come on, you guys, you know the nannies are children too. And everybody's just fine with all of it. Sick world. Sick world. Sickness.
Get saner there. And we weren't recruiting people with a bunch of kids and stuff either. Not eliminating them entirely, but I mean, some of them were ridiculous. Some people come with.
I personally feel why this big limitation on recruiting Sea Org members that have children, I think probably sexual abuse of children went up. I think that's one of the problems. But I also think that there were probably some really bad accidents, or, you never know. I still, to this day, it's my opinion that a lot of these children died. I believe that. I mean, probably a lot of them weren't documented, and if they were documented, nobody was going to check on them. Nobody's going to check if Katrina from Russia, slums, is doing okay.
Like 6 kids. And you think they were joining just because they didn't want to be a parent, and I think some of them didn't. So there was some really ridiculous stuff.
I've said that before. In fact, a lot of ex-Scientologists and people who talk about cults have mentioned that one as well. You hear a lot of these stories of these parents that come in, they bring their children, they just drop them off at like Flag Base or Celebrity Center, and then they just leave them. They don't even check on them. I totally believe that.
Going on, and some of those people were voted off staff. Not in a bad way, not declared a suppressive person, but just you've got too many children, and we don't see that this is viable here because you haven't recruited any nannies or anything. So, to us it was a human.
So wait, let me get this straight. So they bring in, if I'm understanding this correctly, because I'm not a Scientologist, if they bring in new staff members that have children, because they were trying to cut down on this, it's a problem if these people don't bring in more nannies. And you guys know what the other word for nanny is, right? Child. How about just taking care of your own children? I mean, I know I'm not a parent, but damn, man.
Main thing to do. A 30-to-1 ratio of 3-year-olds to nanny where they can't even get outside or to park, that's abuse. And I can't even imagine to this day how it's screwed up their minds and their development. But it started to ease up. So,
see right there when she's talking to me, she seems authentic. It seems like she was trying. You can't put the blame on just one person. All of these abusive situations happen because a lot of people are participating in it. And I know there's a lot of duress, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of abuse. But to me, it seems like she really was trying pretty hard to do something. She wasn't getting a whole lot of cooperation at all. Because, children, who cares, right?
In about 3 months, the other organizations followed us. We were the second biggest organization in Scientology, so the other ones started doing the same thing, which happened often. AOLA was always doing innovative stuff. So ASHO, American Scientology Organization Extra, started doing it. Some of the other AOs in different countries started doing it completely voluntary. Nobody gets sent to ethics. Nobody gets reprimanded.
Also, the part of the voluntary, I think that's for them to get out of any kind of legal liability. It just clicked with me. If they can say everybody's volunteering to go on birth control, there's no legal problem. You know what I mean? Just a guess.
Okay. Now this is a new thing. Nobody in Scientology had ever done this since... Right.
You're not supposed to innovate in Scientology.
Right, not since the 50s anyway. They did do a bit of that in the 50s and early 60s, but they hadn't done it since. And we had a staff member who had been there and worked at that time. Her name was Loretta Hill. And back then, things were more flexible. I wouldn't say entirely. It was still, run by one man, but whatever. And they got paid better back then, too. Those guys were pulling $300-400 a week in the early days. That was a lot of money in the late 50s or 60s or so, when it was just Dianetic Centers, a little bit of Scientology. Loretta told me that. But anyway, so I thought I bought them a year. And I thought, I've just proved something. I've proved that people will do the right thing. I have proven they will do the best thing by the goodness of their hearts for no other reason than they care. Alright? They will make sacrifices because they care, not because they have to. So to us it was just, okay, we can have our kids in a year. We're just going to get this sorted out, and then we'll work it out so that, it's not like this heaps and heaps of kids coming in faster than you can get nannies. So we all assumed, and I assumed, and that we were just going to be able to do that.
It's just so obvious that none of it worked. You know what I mean? Like, I get what she's saying, but at what point does everybody just realize that parents are supposed to be with their children and take care of their own children? Or, get someone within your family to take care of them. I'm speaking to the choir here, but, unreal. Like, when something's not working, that means you got to try something else. And that's because families are not supposed to be split up like this. It's not the natural order of things.
A year. Last year, 6-7 months later, after I started that, this order comes down from Guillaume, from Indian. Nobody's allowed to have children unless they go to these class 4 orgs.
In other words, if they left the CEO and they go to...
Right, well, and we thought...
I wonder if it's just simply a matter of control. Because how weird is it that they're doing all this, can't have kids, can't have kids, can't have kids. We all know it's an MK Ultra experiment. If you guys didn't know that, well, now you do. But it's interesting how they have no problem recruiting children of Scientologists to go into the Sea Org, or even going into elementary schools and high schools to recruit children, which should be against the law. I'm surprised how long they've been at this. You would think it would be against the law to do that, right? But then it's like duality. It's like, on the other hand, these folks cannot have children. But yet, you're going to all these different countries. You're trying to get at the children with all this drug-free world, all this crap. Or the Narcanon and stuff. It just seems, it's like, to me, it's like what's that word called? Like when you're doing one thing on one hand and then on the other you're doing something different. Contradiction.
We Sea Org members thought that if they were only working the day shift or the night shift, that the kids would have more of a normal life. Now Guillaume, bless his heart, saw that kids needed to be raised normally. And a few of the people maybe in the Commodore's Messenger organization saw that. But that was bad conditions there too. Those staff members were starving. They still are.
How many stories have we heard about the children that were raped under the Commodore's messengers? How many have we heard? Boys, girls, raped, locked up in the chain rooms? It's all documented. It is all documented. And even if my channel got taken down, there's 100 more channels that are going to start. And the web is webbing, like BJ Investigate says. The web is webbing, so you can't stop it.
So, what do you do? And he put, and you've seen that copy of that PAC-based order, or that executive order from Guillaume was available online, and it's been on the websites and everything. But it was really with good intentions that was done. Nobody was thinking abortions. It crossed my mind that would Scientology force people to have abortions? And immediately I thought, that is the most ridiculous thing, because Dianetics is all about how terrible abortions are. The whole book is about that. Over and over and over again. I mean, it's tedious to read. So I was...
You know what's interesting about that? I haven't read Dianetics. I might read it one day. But we've all found, we've heard, and it's documented, well documented, that L. Ron Hubbard was obsessed with abortions. We know why that is. He even performed abortions on some of his wives.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. Anybody that's read even anything knows that abortions are something L. Ron Hubbard was totally against. And
that's the cover story.
Well, obviously things got worse, because I was RPF shortly after that. And when I left Scientology...
Could it be that she was RPF because she was trying to stick up for the children? I mean, even though she's kind of warped in her thinking, with the MK Ultra, it does seem like in her power she was trying to do something. I don't know.
Completely, which was about a year after I got out of the RPF. I had nothing to do with it or Scientologists until years later I read about Mary Tabian's abortion, her coerced abortion. And she was such a good friend of mine, such a sweet woman, and it made me so sad. And I felt so bad about it. That's what made me come forward. And that was like a year and a half ago.
So this is in 2011. And you know what's been done about all that coerced abortions and that? Nothing. Nothing was done. Nobody went to jail like they should have been sent to jail. Hail Moloch.
That's what started you on your speaking out.
Yeah. Because it got so bad, the coerced abortions, and, staff being told that, you're going to be declared if you don't get an abortion, and being split up from their husbands and wives, and being told who they can marry and who they can't, and divorces being ordered.
And we didn't even cover the child marriages, which all of my videos talking about child marriage are throttled like crazy. Like I might get 5 views, which is a lie.
How could people sink so low? I mean, to this day, I just go, wow, you guys, at what point is enough for the people that are still in? At what point? Your children. I mean, if nothing else, those kids are entirely dependent on their parents to provide them every possible opportunity and to expose them to all the different opportunities and education they can have so they can find out what's best for them. Parents, you don't decide this is your religion, all education.
Now, right there, she totally lined up with Serge Delmar, what he says. Exactly.
It's useless except this. I mean, in those child care centers, I mean, when I worked as a nanny, I had those 30 kids under my care. Yeah, I got trained how to change a diaper. But, and I'd hug them anytime I would because I felt so bad for them. And who did they have? I mean, but...
Now, right there, that is an adult who saw what was going on. And at least she has the cojones to speak publicly about it. Like she was trying to do something, trying to get the information out. You're telling me that she's the only person in that Scientology that knew that was going on? Come on, man.
L. Ron Hubbard's only use for kids was making them into, his little army. His little cadet army, because to him that was just the best of all things. Someone that's just brainwashed.
Producers.
From birth. And how twisted is that?